The next presentation will be my presentation, so I introduce myself. I change here. Okay, and the title is Acoustics and Global Comfort in the Habitat of Anthropocene. I prepared this presentation together with my colleagues from en.ro.se, and I start from a picture that I took in Rome, in the center of Rome, of a wall where there is this sign. Future is not what it used to be. This sentence remained in my mind, and I checked on the internet. I saw that this quote from Paul Valéry and Paul Strand, poets and writers, have used this expression, and also in a book dealing with the climate change and the energetic crisis, they use this title. The future is not what it used to be, what we were expecting it used to be. So I move from this and giving some introduction and some terms, some keywords. The habitat. Habitat means he lives in Latin. It's a place where the characteristics, some environmental or land use characteristic, allow a given species to live, develop, reproduce itself, and of course affects the quality of life, which can increase or decrease depending on climate and demographic changes. Here you see some of the natural, sorry, I have the mouse, but it's better this one, natural habitats and artificial, or as we say, man-made habitats that are cities especially, the ancient Rome, New York City, and a new infrastructure system in a big city. Another new word that we must learn is Anthropocene. The Anthropocene is a new epoch that is dating from the beginning of a significant human impact on the Earth's geology and ecosystems. The idea of defining a new era, a geological era, based on the impact of human civilization on the planet, was first proposed in 2000 by the Nobel Prize Paul Kreutzen, that wrote a book that is Welcome to the Anthropocene. Then a team of 34 experts worked on it, and then in 2016, at the 35th Geological Congress in South Africa, it was established that the old definition of Holocene as the current era, that dated from 11,700 years ago, should be substituted by a new one, a new definition of a new era that has a starting point 1950, again 1950, like Viciando said before, because from 1950 the impact of the humans on the earth that are measured in terms of storms, and there are many criteria, are crucial. So it is Anthropocene. And the Anthropocene has some karma. You know that karma in the India, not only India, in religious and philosophical terminology, is the fruit of the action carried out by every living person or living being, living body. When virtuous actions are performed, a positive karma is produced. When non-virtuous actions are performed, negative karma is produced. So if we investigate which are the negative and the positive karma of the Anthropocene, we see that it's very easy to collect negative karmas, higher temperatures, raising of the sea level, ashes and fossils, you see there, and of course noise. We have one big negative karma, that is urbanization, and the production of substantial and irreversible changes in many areas of the planet due to urbanization. But there are also positive karma. We don't have to think only negative. Positive karma are health, communication, technological progress in work instruction, energy, culture, quality of life, and comfortable soundscapes. And sustainability can be the solution, because can stop the planet's degradation and discomfort of its inhabitants. If we follow this idea, things are going better. And it's good that the former United Nations President, in his last speech before leaving the seat, said that the biggest challenge in the new century is to adapt the idea that seems abstract, but is not, the sustainable development. So the keywords of the urbanization can change. These are the classical industrialization, construction, infrastructures, and so on. And the objective that better define the urbanization is dimension, intensity, density, but we can change it toward participation, communication, urban performance, environment, and quality of life, smartness, and sustainability. The development of society must change according to these new keywords, or trying to join the new keywords with the old one as far as possible, because there are new landscape and new soundscapes in cities. And the landscapes and soundscape of Anthropocene, where the urban scenarios are made of building, infrastructures, noisy place, but also hopefully quiet areas, can consider the fact that the landscape and the soundscape is not only or not more what we see from a window or what we see in front of us, but it is something where we are inside. We are a part of the landscape, a part of the soundscape. As well as Magritte, the famous painter, represent in the series of pictures called the human condition. It means that we must enlarge the view, considering also ourselves, considering also the place where we are, and working for making the place where we live, cities or buildings, a part of a landscape and a part of a soundscape that is coherent with this new idea and the new keywords. Acoustician can go towards the global comfort and toward the new approach that I have introduced with this first part of my presentation. How and where? Developing noise maps and noise action plans for cities. The acoustic planners and the designer of the actions and the solutions should apply some holistic approaches to noise mitigation and reduction of annoyance, but also to making possible the listening of good sounds in cities and in buildings. And where the negative karma are evident, noise control and soundscape design are crucial, and one of the objectives, if not the main objective, should be the maximization of the pleasantness of the place. The preference, as said, or pleasantness in another terms, of a place. Global satisfaction of people living or working or doing their everyday activities in a place can be reached if we consider sustainability and the positive karma that we have listed before. The acousticians, the acoustic designers should take in account layouts and materials, multisensorial approach, and participation. All this stuff is usually represented with chain and wheels. It is nice, because there is not a linear order of things to do, but it's something that is connected, is chained, is a part of a web. Very shortly, let's see some of them. The circular economy. Circular economy is, in its definition, an economic system that can regenerate itself, and where material flows, biological, that are capable to be reintegrated into the biosphere, and technical ones that are destined to be revalorized with entering the biosphere. Circular economy means recyclable and recycled materials. Multisensory approach. We can consider not only noise annoyance as something that we have to solve with sound mitigation solution, but something that is connected with sound quality, it is connected with physiology, genetics, visual, taste, smell, touch, the other senses, and finally with psychology, with multisensory perception that is also linked to aesthetics, the aesthetics of place. We should design something that is also beautiful, not only effective and functional. And we can do a better design as acoustician, but in general as designer, if we consider public participation and participatory planning and design. This is the general scheme provided by, required by the Environmental Noise Directive as one of the main results that the planners do. And it's the public participation, it means the involvement of public since the very earliest stage of the planning of a new urban area, involving the stakeholders in strategic design and the final users in solution design. The holistic approach must consider the smartness and the serendipity. This is a method that brings to an indicator of smartness and serendipity factors, but we have, with my group, we have applied it to global comfort in new EU-funded projects that we are carrying on for the realization of noise low emission zone. There are some relative indicators for the categories of smartness and comfort that are connected to the wheel of smartness, the wheel of smart cities, that is the well-known, where all the factors that deal with the smart city implementation are represented with some variables, and the specific comfort variables, each one representing a subcategory, are assembled in smartest index that are finally joined in formulas also with the cost and benefit that consider not only the main cost of a solution, but also the secondary costs coming from serendipity effects, coming from other results that you can get doing something for solving one problem, one environmental problem. You can have some added values, added benefit in other fields. And all this can be formalized. I go to the end of my presentation. I have 3 more minutes. I am checking the time, and just showing some examples that we have implemented in our work of urban planners, acoustic urban planners and acoustic designers. This one maybe is a little bit not coherent with what Alessandro Cocchi said before in terms of planning the new cities, but we have experimented this new approach to the urban planning that is based on the polycentrism and the polycentric idea. It means that the networks that are established in cities must be used for giving a rational design to areas where services, cultural topics are developed in a polycentric way. It means that there is not a circular concentric model that is, of course, the most followed, but is a new model, especially doing in cities where there have been problems in suburban areas that are only like dormitory areas. You can requalify them, adding some services or giving them the status of center and no more periphery. Going on with some more, how can I say, visual examples. This one is an example of urban design for global comfort that is given by schools and playground, where barriers can be not just barriers. Noisy schoolyards can be converted from sensitive areas affected by noise to quiet areas open to pupils, relatives, dwellers, maybe exhibitions or shows, entertainment, and making people going there and having fun there. Not just the pupils and the babies, but also the adults. So these are some examples that we have realized in Italy, according to the noise mitigation plan, but solving the problem of the noise mitigation, also adding some other components to the barriers. Components can be like playgrounds or tables or blackboards, things like that. The same principle has been applied to protected trails in noisy areas. This is another good idea that has been also recognized as a good idea from the European Union, that is improving as much the creation of tranquility trails, green zone, and noise low emission zone. The low emission zone are usually intended as zone with low air pollution and with low levels of traffic, but we have to consider also the noise and also the good soundscapes that we can add to this planning. You see here an example where where in a green area, some particular flower beds have been designed with sounds, colors, and meaning, because the sounds that are reproduced are songs that regards the same flowers that you can see, and you can smell, and you can touch. Of course, you cannot eat, but maybe we are trying to do something like that, not in this, but in other places. And music can be very helpful. There are many kinds of music. We are in a theater, of course, there are some important classical music and composers that have composed the music that we use in the parks and in the green areas, but also modern music can be used, the ambient music, and not only. Let's think about John Cage or Pink Floyd. They have many kind of perfect integrated or integrable in the soundscape of cities songs and musics. Okay, we were speaking about why we don't eat, but we can eat in the restaurant. A multisensory restaurant is the new frontier of the restaurant, especially in the UK. They used to design a restaurant where every seat, every place, every table is a special unit where you can have comfort, not only eating good food, but also listening good sounds, smelling the maybe spices that they are using, that are coming down from the floor, and with good acoustics. You see this with something like domes. This is a solution that we have implemented using some glasses where there are the spices, they are real spices with different colors and different smell. And the last one, multifunction auditoria. Also the places that are devoted to listening sound can be multifunction. This was just a church that they want to use also for conferences, lessons, and concerts. And with sustainable materials, it has been changed in a multifunctional auditorium where with this panel that are and baffles pending from the floor, and with these walls made with plants, we can define several acoustic configuration of the church that is specific, designed for specific destination. In conclusion, what I want to say with my presentation is that the global comfort and holistic approach is based on the idea of planning and designing urban areas and building, safeguarding people's safety, health, and serenity, respecting the laws of nature and the harmonious development of the place. In this approach, the acoustics plays or can play an important role because sound, I don't want to say noise, sound is a founding part of the man habitat environment system. So the competencies of the acousticians are crucial. Some smart and serendipity solutions should be considered, not just waiting for them, but considered since the very beginning as a part of the global comfort scheme. And they can lead to added values in terms of acoustics benefit for other solutions and for other benefit for the acoustic solution, not increasing costs. And this can bring to achieve the primary objective of the design with one or more secondary pleasant added benefit. Finally, the participation should be implemented by the action planners and by solution designer, collecting the stakeholders and the user's opinion on strategic issues and in the designing phase. In a nutshell, we started saying that the future is not what it used to be, but the same poet, Mark Strand, says also in another poem that the future is always beginning now, and we hope that with this kit of measures that are dealing with the temporal design, we can reach this objective. Thank you very much. Okay, if you have here, I go there. I change. Please.
Thank you for your wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Interesting examples. I was wondering, however, in the example that you showed us in the part where music was being played, that they also lead to a stage where exclusion is taking place rather than inclusion, because music is highly taste sensitive. In other words, if I enter the space and I hear music that I dislike, there's no option for me to leave. If I see something that comes the other way, but in the case of sound, there is no way it was taking it except for going away. So how did it work in that particular?
Yes, of course. No, you're right. It can be a possibility, but the idea of the designers is to work together with the composers or to those that are expert in ambient music to choose the right sounds that can have the double effect of being masking the noise. We have some experts here, they can say their opinion about this. Masking the noise or also the sounds coming from other areas and improving the pleasantness of the soundscape as an element of landscape of the place, of the area where you are. It means that in a square, for example, where there are old men and maybe reading their newspaper and they want just to hear the sound of the birds or the water, natural sounds, they don't want music, we don't put music. If it's not necessary to stop the noise coming from the transport sources and by the other part of the square, so it is not excluding or creating a wall, there are no walls. It's a kind of virtual, not wall, but virtual separation.